So Bill Reichert is going to talk about how to get to WOW, and then he's going to take some elevator pitches, provide feedback, and there'll be time for Q&A with the audience. When it's time for Q&A, raise your hand high, and we're going to come around with a microphone so that we can have clean audio and we can have a great learning resource that we can use over and over again. So I thank you for your cooperation. And when the formal program ends, roughly about 8:40 p.m., we have our raffle, and we have some awesome prizes from our sponsors, and the grand prize is $100 cash. So who could use $100 cash tonight? Okay. Anyway, you must be present to win. If you don't believe in using cash and you win, just feel free to return it. Without further ado, I want to introduce our featured speaker. He is an icon in Silicon Valley. He's one of the most prominent venture capitalists on the scene. He's been around a long time. He's very knowledgeable, and he is a dynamic, charismatic speaker. So let's have a great big wow for Bill Reichert. 1, 2, 3. Wow!
Right? Hey guys, thanks. Thank you, Rob, and thank you to the College of San Mateo, and thank you to the SBDC for being a sponsor as well. And as a quick reminder to all of you, do your survey, win a prize, right? Do your survey, win a prize, right? Okay. They're trying to give you money. All right, good. So be part of the ecosystem, sign up. So this evening, what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about the best way to communicate your value proposition. And what I want to hopefully accomplish today is I want to change the way you think about communicating. I want to change the way you think about communicating. This came from a realization I had many years ago that we in the venture community are doing a crappy job of teaching entrepreneurs how to pitch to investors or how to communicate to customers. What we do generally is spend a lot of time working with entrepreneurs to explain the stuff that you're doing. And that's not good enough. What we do is we teach entrepreneurs to do these elevator pitches, right? So 2 minutes or 90 seconds or 60 seconds. But the reality in life is you do not have 2 minutes or 90 seconds or 60 seconds with most people you deal with, right? When can you, how many people here are entrepreneurs? Just want to make sure. Okay, so you're all pretty much entrepreneurs, okay? Except for this guy over here who's a supporter of entrepreneurs, right? Okay. Are you an investor, by the way? Yeah. Ah, guys, you got that? All right. Any other investors? Come on, raise your hands. Make sure. Okay, all right. So you're in trouble. That's okay. That's good. That's good. So tell me, when can you use your elevator pitch? Pardon? Everywhere all the time? When? When? Can you, okay, so at a cocktail party, can you walk up to somebody and talk at them for 2 minutes? With, here, wait for my slides. Here they are. Right? Can you do that? No, you can't. You can't, nobody's going to give you 60 seconds to talk at them and go through the 9 different boxes in your business model canvas, before, the elevator gets to the bottom. So the dirty little secret about the whole ecosystem of training entrepreneurs to pitch is many, many years ago, I discovered this. Long ago and far away, when I was a lad, I was an entrepreneur. So I actually started my first software company when I was a graduate student at Stanford. This is long before it was fashionable for graduate students at Stanford to start software companies. So I started a software company long ago and far away, and I had to learn how to deal with this venture capital ecosystem. And so some of my buddies in the venture capital ecosystem confided in me the origin of the elevator pitch. Now, you probably all know the sort of concept that the elevator pitch is something that you can use if you happen to wind up in an elevator with an investor, right? That's the thesis of the elevator pitch. How many elevators are there in Silicon Valley? right? You know, I mean, maybe there's a 2-floor elevator somewhere. The dirty little secret about elevator pitches is the VCs, they all got together and they said, you know, listening to these pitches, it's just too painful. They're too long. What if we force the entrepreneurs to shorten their pitch, you know, down to like, you know, 2 minutes so we don't have to listen as long? Okay, but what's the excuse for that? Well, tell them, just in case they get into an elevator with an investor, you know? Hey, that's great. We'll call it an elevator pitch. The reality in today's world is the only time you can use an elevator pitch is in an elevator pitch competition. Right? I mean, it's crazy. So the reality of your world is, in the real world, you have 20 seconds to be compelling, or you might as well go home. So that's what you got to figure out. You don't have 60 seconds or 90 seconds or 2 minutes, much less 5 minutes. In most situations in which you have to say something compelling about your company, or explain your company, or tell somebody what you do, in most situations, you really only have 20 seconds. And then if you're lucky, they'll say, wow, that's really interesting, tell me more. Typically, however, they'll say, oh, thank you, and they'll turn to the shrimp bar, and they'll get another shrimp, right? So your trick, I shouldn't call it a trick. Somebody said, don't call it a trick, Bill. Your responsibility, your requirement is you gotta get them to say, wow, that's interesting, please tell me more. So what is the secret to getting to wow? Well, it turns out that the secret to getting to wow has to do with human anatomy. And what we've learned over the years is that an effective communicator engages 3 body parts of the listener. Where am I going with this? You got this? Okay. So what are the 3 body parts you've got to connect with? So first, you got to connect with the brain, right? That makes sense. So what you say has got to be logical, it's got to be understandable, the data has to make sense, it's got to all come together. But this is what we spend about 99.5% of our time focusing on. Right? When I was an entrepreneur, I thought the whole idea of doing a good pitch was about creating a compelling argument, right? Like a legal brief. So you bring your logic, you bring your data, you bring your evidence, and you bring your conclusion, and you hopefully compel them with the sheer force of your intellectual power. That's what I thought it was all about. But it turns out that's not good enough. You also have to engage the heart, right? So what we know to be true in our everyday lives is that people don't make decisions with their brains. People make decisions with their hearts. So, you know, amazingly, although it's obvious to all of us that this is true, they actually gave away a Nobel Prize for somebody pointing this out. That we do not make our decisions with our brains, we make our decisions with our emotions. And this was the epiphany that I had when I became a VC. So when I was an entrepreneur, I thought that these VCs were these amazing analytic brains who had this incredible capacity to absorb all of the data that these entrepreneurs were feeding in and run a real-time algorithm that would calculate an internal rate of return and make an investment decision. That's what I thought VCs were. That's why I thought they were, you know, paid the big bucks, because they had these incredible brains. And then we started Garage in 1998. I sold my 4th company, and we started Garage around the idea of creating a different kind of venture capital firm, a venture capital firm that was going to be designed for the benefit of entrepreneurs. And our big idea was we wanted to share all of our experiences as entrepreneurs, our failures and our successes, our scars and our wins, with entrepreneurs. And, you know, and that was, we wanted to be the most outreach-oriented venture capital firm in Silicon Valley. And that's why we do a lot of workshops like this. And Guy Kawasaki, he writes books, and we do the Art of the Start events and things like that. So I cross over, we start Garage, and Garage was funded originally by a bunch of VCs. So Mayfield and Sequoia and Silicon Valley Bank and Advanced Technology Ventures and Draper Fisher Jurvetson funded Garage to get us started to focus on seed investing and accelerating startups. So that was the original big idea. And so now I have all these VC buddies, and I go over to my new VC buddies, and I say, hey, now that I'm on the inside, tell me, what's the algorithm, right? What's the math calculation, the data analytics that you use to decide how to invest in startups? And my new VC buddies, they'd look at me kind of like, well, actually, we invest in teams. That's how we invest. We invest in teams. And I go, okay, good, sounds nice, but what's the data? What's the analytics? What's the, how do you process that? And they go, well, it's kind of pattern recognition. After 5 or 10 years, you'll get the hang of it. And I'm going, you have to be kidding me. Really? This is how the VCs invest in startup companies? And so I started watching how companies got funded and how investors wound up deciding to invest in companies. And I had this extraordinary epiphany. And that was that VCs do not invest with their brains. The way VCs invest in companies is VCs fall in love with a company. And then they've got to have enough in their brains that they can go back to their partners and explain why we should look at this company and it makes sense and all that. You can't go back to your partners and say, oh, I fell in love with this company, let's write them a check. So you got to have enough in the brain that you can rationalize away the fact that you fell in love. But fundamentally, the lesson is, if you're an entrepreneur, the key to success is you got to get them to fall in love. You got to figure out what is lovable about what you're doing and make sure you articulate that clearly to the investor. You got to get their heart beating faster. And that's what I mean by getting to wow. So then the question is, so Bill, why do VCs fall in love, right? So it sounds like it should be a song, right? Why do VCs? Maybe not. Okay. So I've sort of watched how different VCs and how we invest in companies, and I think broadly speaking there are 3 kinds of VC love. So the first kind of VC love is VCs fall in love with teams. So clearly that's an important component. So frequently a team will come into our office and they're smart and they're well scrubbed and they're articulate and they work well together and they do a great job of articulating what they're doing. And we watch them and we go, wow, we would love to work with these guys. Clearly these guys have got it together. So sometimes we fall in love with teams. But there's another kind of VC love. Sometimes we fall in love with technology. So we see a team, they could be the nerdiest guys that have ever walked into our office, right? But they have the coolest technology. They make bits do something bits have never done before, Or sometimes they make atoms do something. Whatever it is, they have really cool technology. And we know we shouldn't fall in love with technology, but we do anyway, because we're all kind of, technology, gadget freaks, and so we like technology. That's why we're in Silicon Valley. That's why we're in this business. So sometimes we fall in love with technology. But there's a third kind of VC love. This is the highest form of VC love, I think, which is sometimes a team walks into our office and they start talking about what they're going to do, and they paint this vision of changing the world in a way that you just go, wow, I want to be part of that. I want to be part of making a dent in the universe. And so my favorite example of that is team comes into our office, 4 graduate students from Stanford, 2 engineers, 2 MBAs, maybe not the right balance. It should have been 3 engineers and 1 MBA maybe, but in any case. So these graduate students walk into our office and they paint this picture of this product they've developed, which is a solar rechargeable lantern that is going to replace kerosene for the 2 billion people on the planet who use kerosene for lighting. And if you use kerosene for lighting, there's smoke, there's fire, there's asthma, there's carbon. It's all this bad stuff, right? But these guys developed a lantern that is cheaper than kerosene. It's cheaper than 15 or 20 days of kerosene. It pays for itself within a month. And the light is better, and it's safer, and it lasts longer, and all these good things. And we listen to this story and we go, wow, this is really neat. But then we say, well, but it sounds kind of like one of those squishy, do-good, philanthropic, social impact, you know? And these guys, they came over the table at us and they grabbed us and they said, you don't get it. If we're going to change the lives of 2 billion people, we have to build a big, scalable, profitable, global enterprise. And we went, yeah, we are there. So the name of that company is Delight Design. We were the first venture investors in Delight Design, and they are doing a phenomenal job, you know, building a great company and changing the lives of tens of millions of people already. So that was, you know, all of us, we just fell in love with Delight Design. And so the point of it all is that's where you each have to get to. You've got to get the person on the other side to say, wow, this is phenomenal. I love this. But there's one other body part you got to worry about. You got to pay attention to, and that is the gut. So you don't get anywhere if you don't pass the gut check. So what do I mean by the gut check, right? We know, all of us as human beings, within seconds of meeting another person, we have a reaction to them. Sometimes it's a mixed reaction, sometimes it's a very clear reaction. I do not want to be with this person, right? Sometimes it's a very positive reaction. Very interesting, nice, wonderful, seemingly delightful person. So we have these gut instincts, right? We all know that this happens. And the question is, you know, how do people react to you? Now, it's not about, you know, how pretty you are or how whatever. It's about, do I trust you? Do I think what you're saying is bullshit? Or do I think what you're saying is real? Do I think you're really committed? Or do I think you're just trying to make a buck? So, but we process this almost instantaneously. And that's our gut reaction to anybody we meet and anything we hear. So you've got to pass the gut check anytime you meet someone. That means you've got to have credibility with them. So of those 3 body parts, then, what do you guys think is the most important? I think it's the heart. I think it's the heart. So you got to pass the gut check. You guys both got it, right? You got it? Okay, all right. Okay, good. All right. Okay. Yeah, I mean, the whole point I'm trying to make tonight is you got to get their hearts to beat faster. You got to do the other 2 things. It's got to make sense, and you got to be credible. But if you're going to win, if you're going to differentiate yourself, you got to make their heart beat faster. So, contrary to that, typically what we get when people walk into our office is sort of something like this. The name has been changed to protect the guilty, but this is kind of a mashup of stuff that we always hear. You know, Coolco is a dynamic startup company that has developed a revolutionary technology that's going to disrupt our $56 billion industry. Our team has over 45 years of combined experience, and we have 3 patents pending. We project that our curve-jumping, paradigm-shifting solution will transform the industry, blah, 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 blah. So we get this all the time. You know, we get all these people that come into our office. They're very enthusiastic, but okay. The other end of the spectrum is this. This is a real company. They actually walked into our office and they really said this. Well, we use a 2048 Diffie-Hellman key exchange and 256-bit triple DES to provide impenetrable encryption for your IoT devices. Yes! So now, in this audience, probably most of you know what a 2048 Diffie-Hellman key exchange is, right? I know, I'm sure that's right. But in any case, you know, the reality is, for most of us on the other side of the table, our reaction to these pitches is, you know, what is this guy talking about, right? And so where the entrepreneur is something like this, right? So you do not want to be here. This is not where you want to be. You want to figure out how to get to wow. So the key to getting to wow, 3 key principles to getting to wow. First of all, you've got to ignore a lot of things you've been taught already by pitch coaches. Now, probably most of you have read some sort of blog or article or something about pitching, and some of you have probably been coached. And I don't mean to take away anything from the pitch coaches. I love pitch coaches. They're nice people generally. But most pitch coaches approach pitching as a business communication problem to solve. And generally, what they're talking about is, you have to present in front of your board, or you have to present in front of an audience, and how do you present in front of an audience? And that's a useful bunch of skills to learn, but it's irrelevant most of the time. It's helpful if you've got a captive audience for a fixed period of time, like I happen to now for a moment. We'll see how it goes, right? But in most situations, you don't have a captive audience. You've got to grab them somehow. My point about you've only got 20 seconds. But so pitch coaches teach entrepreneurs things that are damaging in the normal everyday exchange. One of the things pitch coaches tell all entrepreneurs is you should start with the problem. And now that just sort of makes logical sense, right? So, here's the problem, we're the solution. And so a lot of people think that is a sensible way to start their pitch. So very typically we get these entrepreneurs, they come into our office and we know they have some sort of mobile app. And they have something, Moby use URL, whatever that they got, right? And they put up their title slide and they say, well, first, let's talk a little bit about the problem. And they put up a series of slides to the effect of, there are 3.18 billion smartphones in the world today, and that's increasing at a rate of 17.65% compounded annual growth rate, so that by the year 2022, we're going to have over 4.5 billion smartphones on the planet. And typically, a smartphone user downloads on average 7.5 applications, but they dispose of them on average, and they go through all these statistics, right, about the smartphone business. And 5 minutes into the pitch, we get the solution slide, and the solution is we have an app that helps smartphone users find the best applications for them. We go, crap. Why didn't you tell us that 5 minutes ago? The reality is that almost always, if you are clear about what it is you're doing, if you're clear about the solution, we know the problem you're solving. So I'm betting for 9 out of 10 of you, if you just tell us your solution, we know the problem you're solving. We invest in clean tech. So we get this all the time. Any entrepreneur that has anything in clean tech, their title slide is their name of their company. The next slide is a picture of downtown Beijing. And then they talk for about 5 minutes about how there's pollution on the planet. And we're burning fossil fuels, and we're dumping carbon into the atmosphere, and climate is changing, and the ice shelf in Greenland is slipping off. And so, great, we know this. So you don't have to tell us there's pollution. Just tell us the solution that you're offering, okay? The other thing that a lot of pitch coaches say is, you should tell us a story. Because we know, and research has shown, that people remember stories much better than they can remember just a random discussion of facts, right? So if you can put something in the form of a story, it's easier to remember. That is true. That is fair. But then we get these entrepreneurs, they come into our office. They put up their title slide and they say, here's the company, but before I tell you more about the company, let me tell you a story. When I was a child, my grandfather had a farm. And on his farm, there was a pond, and across from the pond, there were some woods. And in the afternoons, I would go down to the pond, and I would look across at the woods, and it was blah, 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 right? And what I'm telling you is, I don't need the story at the beginning. Maybe someday, over a beer, you can tell me about your grandfather's farm. but I do not need a foundational story. I want to know what you do that is really impressive and exciting. So cut down on the stories. Now, I'm going to give you permission to tell a story. So later on this evening, we're going to have a couple of entrepreneurs who are going to be our guinea pigs. Are you a guinea pig? Okay. So we're going to have a couple of entrepreneurs. They're going to come up and they're going to do a pitch, a very, very short wow. And we're going to, talk about what works and what doesn't work. And I'll tell you guys, you don't have any time to change it anyway, but it's okay to tell a story if you can tell the story in one sentence. And I'll show you how in a minute, how to tell a story in one sentence. The other thing that every pitch coach says is you got to show them the big market, right? Because those VCs, all they want are unicorns. And so every single pitch deck we see has the exact same mind-boggling slide, which is you get to a slide that says market size. And there are 3 circles. Now, some people are creative. They put the 3 circles inside each other. Some people, they like to put the 3 circles next to each other. But everybody has 3 circles. And the big circle says, total potential market. And there are $2.5 trillion that are spent annually on healthcare in the United States. Great. Why is that relevant to this conversation? Well, no, wait, because there are $185 billion that are spent on something else. And then we're targeting only this $56 billion segment of this market. So how hard could it be, for us to get a big chunk of that $56 billion? So every market size slide is delusional or misrepresenting what you're really doing. We do not want the 3 bubbles. I don't know who distributed this 3-bubble slide. Everybody uses it now. Please get rid of the 3-bubble slide, okay? It destroys your credibility. What we really want to know is that you know exactly who and where your customers are. Who are you going to sell to, and how are you going to get to them? Why are they going to buy your product? That's what we want to know. We don't want to know this total potential, total available SAM, TAM stuff, right? Yes, please. Would you do me a favor and open it for me? Thank you. I got people. Thank you. Now, this is something that has amazed me in all of the history of speaking. Why does nobody on the planet design a dais with a flat spot on it? Why is that? Because, okay, that's all right. That's just, somebody's got to figure this out. I'm sure somewhere in there, voila, that doesn't quite work. Okay, in any case. So, point is, yes, you have to show that you can become a big company, but it's almost impossible in today's world with a flat globe, with the digital distribution capabilities that we now have. It's almost impossible to find a market that's too small. I mean, stunningly, this team comes in and they've got a wearable device for dogs that will tell you if your dog is happy or sad. Okay? Now, I'm not a dog person, and I apologize to dog people. I can't imagine why I would care that much if my dog is happy or sad, but I suppose it's important if you're a dog person to know if your dog is happy or sad. So, I'm convinced there's probably a huge market for selling devices to dog lovers to tell them if their dog is happy or sad. I mean, so the point is, if that's a big enough market for some investor, almost anything is a big enough market. So generally today, you don't have to worry. I would bet for 9 out of 10 of you, or maybe it's 8 out of 10 of you, you don't really have to worry whether we believe the market is big enough. What we have to be convinced is that you can get enough customers using your approach with your solution to build a big company. So that's what you got to focus on, not numbers you Google that say there are $56 billion spent on this particular thing. And then the other thing that pitch coaches do is they hand out templates and they say, here's the perfect template for an elevator pitch, or for a full pitch, or for an executive summary, or for a business model canvas, or for whatever it is. There are all these templates floating around. And, and we do it too. Garage has templates. We have templates on our website. And the point of it is that we're trying to help, but if you're an entrepreneur, you can't just fill in the template and expect that you've got a great pitch, or a great business model, or a great anything. No template is right for your company. So every company has different critical challenges. And so what you have to do as an entrepreneur is make sure that you address in priority the critical challenges that an investor cares about, you're being able to overcome to build a successful company. Well, thank you. So if anybody gives you a template, then you can use it as a guide, to help you identify the things that you got to make sure you cover, but don't just fill out the template and assume that you've got a good pitch as a result. So if you follow the common wisdom of pitch coaches, you will not get to wow. Now again, I'm not disparaging pitch coaches. So usually I get into a lot of trouble with pitch coaches because I say stuff like this. They have value in certain circumstances, but not when it comes to your first 20 seconds. Okay? In the first 20 seconds, you've got to do 3 key things. I call it the 3 C's, right? So you've got to do 3 key things. You've got to be clear what you do. So for us to be able to get excited about what you do, we got to understand what you're doing. And the most common complaint that I hear from investors is, I listened to those guys for 2 or 3 minutes and I still didn't understand what they were doing. Because you're talking about the problem or you're talking about something else. You've got to be crystal clear right up front what it is you're doing. Second, this is the wow part, you've got to be compelling. It's not good enough to describe your technology. You've got to say that you are better than everyone else by some significant amount. And you've got to convince us that you're different from everyone else in some sustainable competitive advantage way. So in order to get our heart beating faster, you've got to be compelling. You've got to be better in a measurable way. And then third, you got to be credible. Why should we believe you? So you've got to give us some evidence that what you're saying is true and that we can trust you. So be clear, be compelling, be credible. You'll notice head, be clear, heart, be compelling, gut, be credible. So in every communication you do from now on, I would ask you, I would suggest to you, I would cajole you to try to make sure in every communication from now on, you test whether or not you are clear, compelling, and credible. So no matter how long or how short, you got to be clear, compelling, and credible in all of your communications. So look at that whenever you're talking or planning to speak with someone about what you're saying. So then, if you figure this out, if you know how to package up what is clear, compelling, and credible about your company, you can use it all over the place in everyday life. Of course, you can use it when you're pitching to investors. You could also use a variation on this when you're talking to customers. Anytime you're trying to sell a customer, they've got the same problem an investor has. They need to understand what you're doing, they need to understand why it's compelling, and they need to understand why they should believe you. So, but it'll probably be some somewhat different language than you use for investors. So when you're schmoozing at events, when you're posting updates, when you're recruiting employees, when you're looking for strategic partners, when you're sending out emails, classically, right? Roughly, a short email is got to be something I can read in 20 seconds. You don't have, 2 minutes for somebody to read your email. What do you have on your website? Most everybody has on their website, the name of the company, which is probably some tough-to-pronounce word that you used because you could get the URL, right? So, and then some tagline like empowering the future, right? So how many people have empowering the future as their tagline, right? So, whatever. But the point is, what does that communicate, right? Is it clear what you do? Is it compelling? No. So you've got to figure out above the fold on your website, how much space do you have? You don't have a lot of space. You got less than 20 seconds worth of substance you can put above the fold on your website. How do you get compelling above the fold on your website? So when you're leaving voicemails, this is classic, so hardly anybody does voicemail anymore, right? But we still get, we still have to have voicemail. And so people call Garage. And, there's a very clear message that says, sorry, we can't answer the phone now, but please do this, right? And we get these voicemails, and it's like, after the message, they're shocked that they're listening to a voicemail, right? But we get a voicemail on our line all the time. And somebody goes something like, yeah, hi, yeah, this is Bob. I'm in Georgia, and we got a startup company. We're looking for money. Could you call me back? Really? So, you got 20 seconds to get me to call you back. How are you going to do it? Not that way. So, press releases, marketing materials, your boilerplate, what do you use? You probably use some very high-flying language that, sounds good, but may or may not be clear to people who don't know your company. So when you're training your team, everybody on your team should know what is lovable about your company, what is compelling about your value proposition. Everybody on your team should know it. Typically, if you interview people in a company, they all have a slightly different version of what's cool about that company. Why isn't everybody totally aligned around what is compelling about your company? My point is that if you can crack this, it's not just about pitching, it's not just about elevator pitching, it's communications you can use all the time. So, what is the secret? I'm going to give you 3 steps to getting to wow. First step, please give me a clear description of what you do better than anyone else. So imagine, using simple TechCrunch language. If you got an article on your company in TechCrunch, how would they describe your company in the opening paragraph? What sentence would they use to describe your company in the opening paragraph? They would not say, ABC Company is a curve-jumping, paradigm-shifting, disruptive technology that's going to transform the mobile industry. No self-respecting journalist is going to say that about your company. So why do you keep putting that in your press release? Give us the sentence that you want us to use when we're describing your company to other people. Give us the sentence you wish TechCrunch would put in the lead paragraph of the article on your company, that realistically they would use. What is that sentence? Now, stunningly, if I were to ask, a typical audience, you're not a typical audience because you're special. You're better than a typical audience, right? But if I were to ask a typical audience of entrepreneurs to give me the one sentence that clearly describes what their company does, it would be tough. You'd struggle a little bit. And so why are you struggling? Why don't you have that sentence? And why doesn't everybody in your company have that sentence already? So that's your first sentence. So now we're maybe 8 seconds into your wow, right? 8 seconds in. Second sentence. What is the compelling benefit that you offer to whom? So this is your value proposition and your target customer, right? So what is your compelling benefit? So what is a benefit? Tell me. Give me an example of a benefit. Cheaper. Pardon? What did he say? Save money, cheaper. Yeah, save money, cheaper. Another benefit. Faster. Grows your business. Right, a benefit is a direct, measurable advantage that you get from this solution. But you ask, sometimes I'll ask an entrepreneur, so what is your compelling benefit? And, one team, they said, well, we use silicon nitride. And of course I should go, wow, you use silicon nitride, of course, right? So now apparently, if I were smarter, I would know that silicon nitride has a different band gap than silicon dioxide, and as a result, that enables them to do something with their power electronics that you can't do with, so somebody here understands this. I don't, right? So, but using silicon nitride is not a benefit, right? So if that results in being faster or cheaper, or consumes less energy and therefore saves money, or reduces heat and therefore saves money, or whatever, right? Then there's a quantifiable benefit. So what is the benefit? And give me the metric of that benefit. So you can't be 3% better, you can't be even 20% better. You gotta be 2 times better, or 5 times better, or 100 times better. So what is your benefit and what makes it compelling? So one way to get to this is to begin the sentence with, the big idea behind our company is. So generally, when you ask entrepreneurs about their value proposition, they will start rattling off a whole bunch of benefits. We've got 9 various benefits that we have that the other people don't have. Well, that's not going to work. So what we've learned over the years is that great companies are not built by putting together a bunch of little good things. Great companies are built by having some extraordinarily great thing and then being good at everything else. So you can't build a great company by putting together a lot of pretty goods. You've got to have a big idea that's going to differentiate you, that's going to make people go, wow. What is your big idea? I don't want to hear a whole bunch of pieces. I want to hear a big idea. Now, there's an exception here that I always bump into, which is sometimes you have a two-sided market. Right? You might have a marketplace that has some customers and some vendors in it, and so you have to have 2 big value propositions for each side of your market. That's okay. So it may not be one big idea, but the point is there is a big idea that makes your customers fall in love with what you're doing. So that's your second sentence. So now we're maybe 15 seconds into your pitch, right? The next thing you got to do is you have to solve a problem that every investor and every customer has when they listen to you. And that problem that you may not know is as soon as you open your mouth, the investor starts thinking about all the other companies that he or she has heard of that seem to be doing exactly the same thing that you're doing. So this is a challenge for investors. It's also a challenge for customers, because customers are constantly bombarded by salespeople who are telling them, I can rock your world. Right? So you've got to shut this down as fast as possible and differentiate yourself from all those other companies. So you've got to be able to say, now, you might have heard of other companies that are improving the power electronics of AC to DC transformers, but unlike them, we are doing it entirely by blah, 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 whatever the answer is. So what you need to do is quickly differentiate yourself from what comes to mind in the investor's head or in the salesperson's head. All right? Boom, boom, boom. Clear description, compelling benefit, credible differentiation. You should be able to do that in 20 or 30 seconds. So now, at this point, somebody raises their hand and says, wait a second, Bill. Before, didn't you say that we should ignore templates? And this looks kind of like a template to me. And so what I'm saying is, yes, this is a template, and the way you should use templates is as a guide. And what I'm saying is probably and almost certainly each one of these questions is going to be asked of you. So you have to have a one-sentence answer for each of these issues. You've got to have a one-sentence statement of who you are, what you're doing. You've got to have a one-sentence statement of your core value proposition. And you've got to be able to say how you're different from the competition. So you need those sentences anyway. But maybe there's a better way to put it together. Maybe there's a different way to get people to say wow in the first 20 seconds. So there are alternative approaches. So let me just touch on quickly some alternative approaches, and then I want to get to the pitches here. So one thing you can do is, if you can tell a story or paint a picture in one sentence, that might be a better way to get your message across. So remember I said I don't want a long and involved story, but if you could tell a story or paint a picture in one sentence, that sentence might begin with imagine if. So imagine if you had an application that pulled together all of your contacts from all of the different databases where they reside, your email address book, your Salesforce contact list, your company contact list, into one simple contact manager. Wouldn't that be great? Instead of, we have developed a platform technology that extracts contacts from multiple heterogeneous databases into one unified file. So you can articulate, your core message in an imagine if statement that might be easier for people to understand. So another thing you should do is take advantage of things like analogies or similes or metaphors, things that make it easier for me to know what you're like. So, now everybody says, we're going to be the Uber of dog walkers, or, I'm sorry, I'm picking on dogs tonight. But, or we're going to be the Airbnb of trucking, right? So everybody does that. You want to be careful about stretching that too far. One of the best examples I heard many years ago, this is actually before YouTube, this team comes into our office and says, there's a lot of video on the internet now. Well, we're going to be the TV guide for the internet. We go, well, we get it immediately, right? It's a way to find stuff on videos on the internet. It's not exactly a perfect analogy, but you go, boom, of course we need a TV guide for the internet, don't we? I don't know, whatever. But so if you can articulate an analogy that makes it easy for me to understand what you're doing, that might be a useful trick. And then another approach that's totally different. It's totally off the template. It's a totally different strategy for getting to wow. Is if you've got a really big name associated with your company that you can drop, you can get to wow really quickly by dropping a big name. So if anybody here has a Nobel laureate on their founding team, that would be good, right? Okay. So the best example of this, I happened to be down in New Zealand and was at an elevator pitch competition. And a woman gets up and says, hi, my name is Claudia, and we have a suite of special effects software for the entertainment industry. Last year, we won the Academy Award. And then she went on to talk about, her software, and I said, Claudia, you had me at Academy Award, right? So, counterexample, team walks into our office, 1 hour session, pitch session, 55 minutes into the pitch, they get to the team slide. And on the team slide, it says that one of the co-founders is a Nobel laureate. Literally. And so I go, oh my God, Bill Sharp is one of the co-founders of your company? And they go, yeah. And so I said, well, wait, why didn't you tell us that before? And they said, well, we wanted to end with a bang. And I said, yeah, but if you had told us that before, we would have listened, right? So, if you've got a big name that, just totally establishes your credibility up front, give us that credibility enhancer. It will improve our engagement. So, finally, some final tips. You got to keep it simple. And this is particularly a problem for engineers. It's actually also a problem for MBAs. So it's a problem for everybody. So the problem you've got is you know so much more about your business than the person you're talking to. You frame it in language that we can't understand but seems obvious to you. This happens all the time. It is, the problem of knowing too much. And so what you have to do is you have to test it on people who are not already exposed to what you're doing and see, can they play back to you what you said? And it is stunning how rare it is when an entrepreneur goes through their canned pitch and they ask somebody who's new to play back what they said, how frequently the person says, I don't got anything here, right? But you thought it was totally clear and obvious, but that's because you already know what you're doing. So you've got to keep it simple so that people can remember and play it back. So that's an important test. The other thing is, particularly around here, where so many teams are engineering focused, entrepreneurs get really excited about talking about the technology, about the platform, about the stack, about, all this stuff, right? What we want to know is that you are customer focused. You're focused on solving a problem for the customer. So make sure however you're phrasing your story, that you're phrasing it in terms of value you are creating for your target customers. And then I put this in because, I told you before about the importance of having a compelling metric of your value proposition. So this guy comes back and he's got like 10 compelling metrics. And the reality is we cannot absorb more than 2 or 3 numbers, preferably 1 or 2 numbers. What are the 1 or 2 important metrics about your company that you want us to remember? Frequently, all the time, entrepreneurs, because they think that a pitch is about making the case for their company using data and analytics and evidence, frequently entrepreneurs overload their pitch with numbers. And the result is we don't know which number to remember at the end of the day. Do we really care that the smartphone industry is growing at 17.65% compounded annual growth rate? We don't care about that number. Why did you put that number in my brain? Believe it or not, that number is a number somebody actually pitched to me years ago that just, it stuck in my brain that they would get the compound annual growth rate over the next 5 years down to 2 decimal points, right? Like, really? So in any case, think about the numbers you want them to remember and try to minimize the other numbers, or at least, take them out of the mainstream so they don't distract the listener. And then finally, sort of my advice to every entrepreneur is please don't lie, right? So that should be obvious, and nobody intends to lie. But the problem is that you're so enthusiastic about what you're doing. You're so positive it's going to happen the way you think it's going to happen. You tend to exaggerate a little. You tend to kind of overstate what's going to happen. And so we've come across this, over the years many times. And so we've put together what we call the top 10 lies of entrepreneurs. And I'm going to go through this really quickly because I want to get to the pitches. But please, please do not exaggerate in a way that destroys your credibility. So the top 10 lies of entrepreneurs. Lie number 1. Everybody says this. Our projections are conservative, right? Of course they are, because the spreadsheet says we can do this, right? So lie number 2, our target market is $56 billion. We already talked about this. This isn't really good segmentation. Lie number 3, we have a world-class team. I love that you are loyal to your college roommate and his cousin. That's great, but probably you're not a world-class team yet. That's okay. That's okay. We just want to know that you're willing and able to attract a world-class team. Lie number 4, our average sales cycle is 90 days, or, our average conversion rate is 12.5%. The world never works out that way, depending on whether enterprise or consumer. Lie number 5, we have no direct competition. This is an evolution. In the olden days, entrepreneurs used to say, we have no competition. But they got coached that they can't say this. So now they say we have no direct competition. On the other side, the other alternative to that is, well, nobody else can do what we can do. Well, just because nobody else is doing what you're doing doesn't mean they can't do it. And maybe there's a reason they're not doing it. And maybe that's a bad reason for you. Lie number 7, all we need is 2% of the market, right? Because if it's a $56 billion market, 2% is over $1 billion. How hard could that be, right? Anybody can get 2%, right? So line number 8, we'll be cash flow positive in 12 months. That never happens. Line number 9, our deal with Google will be signed next week. And then 2 weeks later, so how's that signature look, huh? Oh, well, we had some problems with legal. I don't know. And then line number 10, I'll be happy to hand over the reins to a new CEO. We know you're not going to be happy if it comes to that. A lot of people give VCs a bad rap because they think VCs want to replace founders. Not true. We do not want to replace founders. We know the best companies are those companies where the founders grow with the company and they stay with the company. But sometimes that doesn't work. Companies go through very significant shifts in their requirements for the team as they grow. And sometimes the founders make that transition, sometimes they don't. And so we want to know that you're not doing this as a personal development exercise. You really want to make a dent in the universe. And if for whatever reason your skill set isn't the right skill set for the next phase, then let's get the right person who can do that. But we know you're not going to be happy about it, and we're just hoping that we can do it together. So those are the top 10 lies of entrepreneurs. This is how you get to wow. Greg Holson helped me with the slides, so I want to thank Greg. If you need slides, if you like these slides, if you think he's good, call Greg. This is the advertising portion of the program. So I did a video course for the Kauffman Foundation on the art of startup finance. And actually, a number of ideas for this course were crowdsourced in this venue about 2 years ago. I asked the audience, please send me issues you have around startup finance that I can talk about in this course. And so the result was a 2-hour course for entrepreneurs on the finance that entrepreneurs need to understand if they're going to be entrepreneurs, which is very different than what they teach in business school. It's very different than what accountants learn. But it goes through some of the core issues about what we look for in your financial statements as investors, and then talks about turning your business model into financial metrics, creating a dashboard, and monitoring your performance and testing your KPIs. So that's what the art of startup finance is all about. And then Guy and I did a video version of The Art of the Start, which is available on Skillshare.com. The Kauffman Foundation is free. Skillshare, they make you pay something. I think it's pretty cheap, though. And so if you want resources, some additional resources, I told you we have templates on our website. Use them as guidelines, not as templates. And that's my email address. If I don't get a chance to talk to all of you, or if you have follow-up questions or confusions or comments afterward, you can find me at Reichert@garage.com, and that's my Twitter handle, and you can go ahead and abuse that if you want. So that is getting to wow. We're going to ask you for questions in a little bit, right? But first we've got some volunteer entrepreneurs who are going to do a test pitch on stage, and we're going to see what we can learn about how to do a good job of getting to wow. Right? You guys are ready? Yeah?
First of all, let's hear it for Bill.
That's it. Thank you.
And everyone's got Bill's contact info. He's very good at answering email. And who would like...
This is an inside joke. Rob was giving me a hard time about the fact that I didn't read my email that he sent me at 10:43 this morning, as if I'm going to read it at 10:40. I'm sorry. Okay, but
well,
eventually I do answer my email.
Yeah. Who would like Bill's cell number? It's 650-555-1212. Anyway, without further ado, we've gone through a curation process, and we have solid startups that have a market-ready product, users, sales, and revenue, real companies. And we have a little more time because we had some personal emergencies. So we're going to allow Bill to go in depth with 3 of them. So 1-minute pitch, no slides, followed by 6 minutes of Torture, I mean, feedback. Bill. So first up, we have Ashwin from Sway Finance. Let's hear it for Ashwin.
Aha, here he is. Okay, so let's keep this casual, Ashwin, okay?
All right.
All right, how you
Yeah.
doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. So tell me, what are you up to?
We are replacing accountants with artificial intelligence. Now, I know it sounds like bullshit, but we're in an elevator, so don't kick me out. Hear me out here, all right? We're starting with just bookkeeping. This is the most tedious, straightforward, least nuanced part of accounting. And we're doing it only for SaaS companies. No inventory, clean, vanilla companies, and there's 100 of them around here, okay? We spent the last 3 months at Y Combinator building out our technology, and it's working. We got it so our computer can do 80% of the work for us, and we're plugging in the rest. And it's learning every single day. We launched 3 weeks ago as an online bookkeeping service. We've got 10 paying customers who've replaced their human bookkeeper with our product. We've got 100 companies on our wait list, and we're doing a pilot with an accounting firm next month that wants us to do the books for all 200 of their clients. So Bill, we got a tiger by the tail here. Our tech is there.
Great, got it.
All right.
Okay, good. Somebody's keeping time? Okay, there we go. All right, great, thank you. Round of
Thanks.
applause for Ashwin, all right? So first of all, so there's an inside story here. Part of that inside story is that Ashwin was very clever. He approached me before the session, and he said, if I say this to you, how will you react? And so he told me, we're going to replace accountants with AI. And I said, that sounds like bullshit to me, right? So
Yeah.
hence you got his response, don't kick me out of the elevator. So I felt a lot better when you said, as you sort of went through the pitch, so you said, we're going to replace accountants with AI. Now, I know that sounds like bullshit, but don't kick me out of the elevator because, we've developed this thing that we spent a bunch of time at Y Combinator. We launched it. We now have 10 paying customers, and we replaced the simplest part, which is the bookkeeping part, of SaaS companies who have their data in the cloud because, we don't worry about capital and inventory and that sort of stuff, capital assets. And so we replaced about 80% of the bookkeeping, 10 paying customers, and 100 in our pipeline.
Yep.
Is that it? Did I miss anything?
And then the pilot with the accounting firm.
And any day now we're going to do a pilot with the accounting firm. Okay.
Next month, yeah.
So that was pretty good. So I heard, understood, and remembered pretty much all of what you said.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a really good test that he got his message across. Now, what do I wish I had heard?
Mm-hmm.
What I wish I had heard was the economics of it.
Yep.
So he said we replace accountants with AI. His assumption is that I would then say, wow, that's got to save a whole boatload of money, right? That was his assumption, but you don't leave that as an assumption because I'm sitting there thinking, well, how much money does that really save if you only fix about 80% of it, right? So in order to give me a compelling benefit, he needs to quantify it. So saving 80% of accountant's time is not sufficient quantification. He didn't turn that into a benefit. The benefit is got to be, tangible. What is it? There's money involved here somehow, right? So there's two possible benefits here. One is saving money because you can reduce the hourly charge amount because most bookkeepers are paid on an hourly basis, probably. Probably that's true.
Yep.
In a lot of companies, one of the problems is if you save time for employees, that time is not very fungible, so you don't really save money. You still have the employee sitting there. And, so they do some other things like they straighten out the filing cabinets or whatever they do. You gotta prove, and when you save time inside an organization, you gotta prove that that's gonna result in a true economic benefit.
We're replacing those people.
Okay.
That's their salary is the benefit.
Okay. So, but I still need 20%, right? You're not replacing
Well, it'll be in
them.
3 months.
You're
It'll get
only
90%,
fixing
and then
80%.
it'll get to 100. We're doing all the books. It's just for Wizard of Oz, 20%.
Okay.
In a few months, we'll get to 10%.
Somebody has to manage the system. So what I want to hear, so where I'm going with this, is the best way to convince an investor that you've got a quantifiable benefit is to say he's got 10 paying customers. So I'm hoping that he can say to me, and already our customers are reporting that by shifting the labor, swapping out or whatever, you actually don't want to say we're firing people. You don't want to say that, because that doesn't, you know, I don't really want to invest in a company that's firing people, right? But so you got to figure out that phrasing. But I want to know that your customers are realizing a true economic benefit. And maybe the way to do it is to say that they're reporting that typically they spend, you know, X dollars per month in their bookkeeping operations, and now, thanks to us, they're only spending Y dollars per month. That's got to be an interesting number. And that includes the N dollar cost of our service, which I never heard, right? So I don't know what the cost of the service is, and I'm so, you know, I've got a little bit of a problem with my sort of knowledge anchors here in terms of clearly understanding what your business is.
Got it.
So in order for me to go back to my partners and say, I met this extraordinarily interesting company, I need a few more substantive elements, you know, in terms of the economics and the compelling economics. Does that make any sense?
So is there stuff I could have left out to make room for that?
You could have said, you know, so we've got 10, you said, we've got 10 paying customers, and I was waiting, I was expecting you were going to tell me what benefit they were going to report.
Yeah.
You could have cut out the part about me kicking you out of the elevator. Right?
Okay. Yeah.
So, it's easy enough to figure out, you know, how to sort of reduce your language to get these compelling points in.
Got it.
All right? So, anything else? Let's see. The other piece that's going to be, I'm not sure if you needed this in the short version, but almost certainly you're going to come across an investor who says, yeah, the guys at Bill.com, they're doing the same thing. You know, they're replacing all the bookkeepers. So are you cheaper than Bill.com?
They're not replacing the bookkeepers, but they're replacing invoicing. Yeah. We're using Bill.com.
You are using Bill.com?
Yeah.
All right, okay. So, you know, they're replacing some of the bookkeeping.
Yes.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and, you know, so you're going to get these questions about the other players out there, some of whom are direct and some of them are indirect, and why you're different and why you will win in your, why you'll be able to be unlike these other companies.
Yep.
Okay? Any other questions or comments? Yeah, you had a point? Pardon? Time saving. Right, you want him to quantify it. Right, so I want him to, yes, right. And so that's what we were talking about, quantifying the time saving and the economic value of that time saved.
Yep.
And how it's realized, how that economic value is realized in practice, okay?
Cool.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, thanks so much.
All right, appreciate it. Great job, great job. Good. That was a great start. So what I'm hoping from this group is you're all listening as I'm listening, and I want you guys to process yourself what worked and what didn't work. So thank you very much. And then chime in on if you had a confusion or if you had a recommendation, how each person can improve it. Okay? Super, thanks. Who's next?
Next up, we have Larry from Green Watering Systems. Let's hear it for Larry.
All right, Larry.
Thank you, Rob.
Come on down. Hey, Larry, great to meet you. How you doing?
I'm doing great.
Okay, now you need to have a mic. Okay?
Thank you.
So speak into the mic.
All right.
All right, what do you got?
All right. California drought and global water shortage is everybody knows. And now we came up with a solution which can save water and it can save the time in watering and money to the homeowners. And then the scope is great. The scope is to the nurseries and to the orchard as well. And since we launched 6 months before, we have sold 500 pieces, generating revenues about $10,000. And it is available on the Home Depot, so online. And we are growing exponentially, targeting other stores and the nurseries, which is the large market. It is produced in San Jose, so we built it here in USA. And it is, profit margin on this for us is about 55%. So it's a good opportunity for the investors. And we are seeking investments for the inventory and marketing. And yeah, it's a great product for the homeowners.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you, Larry. Wild applause for Larry. Okay? Okay. So what did he miss? Didn't say what? How it works. Interesting. Okay. You see what just
How it
happened?
worked.
You see what happened? You held this up and you assumed everybody knew what this is. Nobody knew what this was, right? Does anybody know what this is? See what happens, right? You totally
Okay.
know. I mean, it's obvious to you. You didn't realize that holding this up, you know, you thought, see, I got a real product here. It's really selling. It's in Home Depot. But nobody knows what it is, right? So they're all confused.
All right.
So you're saving water, but I don't know what, you know, I don't know how in the world you save water. So what does that do? It kills your credibility, right? Because if I don't know what it is you got,
Right.
right? Okay, so give me the one sentence. What is the one
This
sentence?
contain water and under that plant or tree and let the plant tree absorb all the water and nutrient for the growth.
So it's a plastic wrap that goes in the dirt hole. Is that what it is?
Right. It go around the plant to hold the water underneath.
Okay. So it's a plastic wrap that goes in the dirt hole, right? Doesn't now? I guess. Right, but I mean roughly that's the idea, right? But
Yes, that is
okay,
correct.
Okay. So so that's what it, you know. So but you see what happened? Okay. So
Right.
now that you know what it does, then what's your next question? How much water does it really save? How much water does it really save?
It save around 50% water in watering the plants or trees. So it's going to cut down from every day to skip 1 or 2 days. So half the time. Easily it can save more than 50%.
So it saves about 50% of the water that you use watering your plants. Now you can't
Right.
put this under your grass, right?
That is correct.
Okay. So it'll save the plant watering, right?
Plant and trees,
Okay.
yeah.
So what does that mean to me? Because who's your target customer?
Target customers are many people has plants and people buy plants and trees every year from the Home Depot. Also, the largest buyer will be orchards where they have the trees. And currently, like trees are watered by just flooding the whole area. And this just conserve only where the tree is.
Okay. So now I got this other thing going. So the problem you've got is everybody knows something about plants and trees and nurseries, but we probably don't know what you wish we knew, right? So what I thought I knew about a nursery is that they plant, you know, all of the trees they're gonna sell in pots. And so the pots have the same effect as this, don't they?
No, the pots are just to carry around, but usually like all the plant and trees especially are planted in the ground. And that's where the roots start growing, and this will help tremendous in letting the root grow properly and conserve water.
Okay. What I would love is testimonial from a nursery, right? So you started out saying you're targeting homeowners.
Right.
And so then my question is that going to make any material difference to me as a homeowner in terms of, even if I save 50% on the watering of the plants that I put this under, when is the payback on, you know, not just the cost of your product, but also the time of either digging them up and putting this underneath and putting them back, or the next time I put, right? So you get all of this thought process going about, is this really a quantifiable benefit for me as a homeowner, right? Now, it makes sense to go, I think it makes sense to go after people that do lots and lots of plants, right? Like nurseries or maybe campuses. But I don't know if that's your target. But what I would love to hear is an expert testimonial saying, we're piloting this with a nursery, or we're piloting this with a campus gardening company, and they're now reporting, some measurable benefit as a result, which will give them a payback of only 3 months, or whatever it is, whatever the truth is, right?
Right. Yeah, we are serving in the kits of 4, so which can go with the 4 plants. And normally, household has 4 plants, and that's why it is mainly initially targeted for the homeowners. And the
How much does this cost?
$19.95 on the retail.
$19.95. Okay.
And it could be
That's
installed even once the plant
$19.95
is
a lot of water.
for 4. So it's like
Right.
yeah,
It's a
1/4.
lot of water, right? Okay. So what's the payback?
Payback is few months, like 3 to 4 months, then it should pay back. Because otherwise, amount of water being given to each plant is tremendous. So as we do the measurement, so it can cut down easily more than 50%, and also the times and the fertilizer saving as well.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions for Ashwin? Yes.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
between here and LA along the I-5, there are how many millions of almond trees along those orchards?
That is
How come
correct.
those guys aren't driving dump trucks full of money up to you because they have a severe water problem? What is preventing that from being a huge, forget consumers, just a huge commercial success tomorrow?
That is correct. So yeah, next step is on going after the commercial, like orchard. And in the orchard has a huge market, because currently, as one UC studies, so there is about 27,000 gallons of water is used in watering 1 acre of land. And that's where the almond tree issues came last time. This can cut down, could cut down a huge amount, like not 50%, but beyond. So that study still we are working on.
Okay. But you didn't start there, and you didn't even go there, right? So now, now you're saying, hey, and yeah, sure, we can also do orchards. But I mean, I want to, you got to decide who are your target customers and where is the big value proposition. And I get why consumers might want to do this because they think it's a good thing, but the economics are not in the consumer, I don't think. I think the economics are in the orchards or some big
Nurseries,
commercial.
yeah, huge economy is under nursery and orchards.
Okay, so back to the beginning of your pitch. What were the first words out of his mouth? Does anybody remember? Right, you came up here and you said, California drought, water. So I could tell you were sitting there saying, oh crap, Bill said don't start with the problem. Right? But of course, if you had come up here and said, we can save commercial plant growers 50% on the cost of watering their growing plants, oh wow, I get I get the value proposition by providing this material, which is basically a plastic wrap around the root ball that conserves the water while letting the roots grow.
That's
Is that roughly right?
sure, yes.
Okay, so you could have nailed it, in less than 20 seconds, right, if you had been crystal clear and had quantified the benefit. All right?
Right.
All right?
Thank
All
you very
right.
much.
But it was a great job. All right. Okay, thank you very much.
Next up, we have Arthur from Dot Hot. Let's hear it for Arthur.
All right.
Hello, thank you.
Hey, Arthur, how you doing?
Doing great.
Good, good. So what do you got?
So, Bill, we have a proximity-based advertising platform that is delivered through the beacons. And we started this company with a great team, and that consists of the former co-founder of Netflix, and then later on CEO of Redbox, one of the founders of Nintendo, and we have a very experienced team. And what's most important, we already have customers. Our customers are the brands to which we are providing little beacons that look like this, and they're part of their point of purchase displays, enabling the brands to communicate with the users. And currently we have a pipeline of $6 million already with the $1 million purchase order in our as a starting point. What else should I say about our company? CEO just exited.
Okay.
Sebastian just exited with the sale of the first company last year.
Okay, all right. Okay, so we have a proximity advertising that is delivered through the beacons. We have a great team, co-founder of Netflix, founder of Nintendo. And we have customers. We have this company in a pipeline, and we have a company purchase order and 6 in the pipeline. Let's see. What else did you say? That's what I heard.
Didn't
else
say,
did you say?
any,
What else
didn't say anything else.
That was it? And then
Yeah,
you
that was
started
it.
to talk
Then
about
I
it.
said,
Yeah,
"Oh,
okay,
I forgot
okay.
to
So that
say
was
it."
it. That was it. Okay. All right. Okay. So, what did I say about the first sentence?
To clearly state what the product and company is about.
Okay. So, who here can clearly state what the product and the company is about? We do proximity advertising that is delivered. You didn't hear the word proximity advertising? You did. The proximity advertising that's delivered through the beacons. So, and then, oh no, and then you held up a beacon. That's what you did. You held up a beacon. So we have these beacons. So I could hold this up and I could tell them it's a beacon. Here, see, it's a beacon. so for all I know, it's I don't know what's in it. So again, you understand the idea of beacons and then proximity advertising. But, we're racing to catch up. So essentially what you're saying, I believe, this is what I think he's talking about. He's talking about, the Tom Cruise movie, critical, Minority Report. So he's talking about Minority Report, which is, right? So you're talking about as I approach one of the displays, that display knows I'm approaching and gives me an ad that's customized to me.
That's exactly what it is.
That is?
Yes.
Okay. How many people knew that, got that, heard that? Some of you, as soon as you say proximity advertising, your head goes to Minority Report, generally, right? So then the beacon thing, I still, I get that there's got to be a technology involved, but I don't exactly understand how the beacon relates to me. Presumably, somehow the beacon, probably it has something to do with my smartphone.
That's exactly what it is. So
Okay.
we have a full applications that are already done and finished for the iOS and for Windows and
Okay.
for Android. So as you approach to any displays, for example, Bose speakers at the Best Buy, we have our application .hot that then enables you to interact with it and get a coupon or more information about
Okay.
this product.
Okay. So, so the challenge you've got, so your reality is most of the people you talk to are target customers, and most of the time when you're talking to a target customer, a big advertising, a Clear Channel, I don't know who, right, or a brand, they know what you're talking about, and they, there's enough briefing, they're smart enough, and they're kind of trying to solve this advertising problem. When you walk into an investor, that investor is not thinking the same way that a customer is thinking, right? That investor just talked to a company that is doing lithium-ion battery nanotechnology, right? And so you come in talking about proximity advertising, and their brain is trying to get around what you're doing. So you've got to paint the story a little bit better, so a little bit faster, right? So, and then just the flow. The flow was, we're doing proximity advertising delivered through beacons. We have a great team. So you were trying, I believe, what you were doing, you were trying to take advantage of my point.
That's correct.
Which was to knock my socks off by talking about a co-founder of Netflix and a co-founder of Nintendo. And I guess what I'm saying, the way you said that, it was not exactly credible. So what I wanted to know is exactly the role of the co-founder of Netflix. And, you know, I know Reed Hastings. Reed Hastings
no,
is
it's
a friend
a
of
Mitch
mine.
Lowe.
I know. I mean, I was going to do a bad joke. So, so I
Reed
know
knows
it's
me
not
too.
Reed Hastings. I know it's somebody else, right? So, but I want to know what his contribution is to the company, what his role is in the company.
Sure.
What's the short answer?
Well, the short answer, he's a director and he's a board of the director, and he's actually a partner in my multiple businesses.
Okay. So, so somehow you got to get, you know, sort of quickly to, well, you know, you tried to do it by saying, and we have customers, right?
Right.
So we have a beacon, we have customers, and then you hurt your credibility because you said we have a confirmed purchase order.
Right.
So when you said customers, that to me said we have paying customers that are using the product.
Right.
But when you said confirmed purchase order, then it sounded like you haven't shipped yet and you haven't been paid yet. What is true?
The truth is that we just received the purchase order last week.
Okay, so you haven't shipped yet, you haven't been paid yet.
Yeah.
So you, right in, you know, in the span of 10 seconds, you took me backward, right? Because most people, if you say, and I have customers, generally you think that means that they're paying customers that have the product and have used it.
PO is equal to the customer.
Okay, how many people agree with this sentence? So he said a PO is equal to a customer.
The money is never there until it's in the
Is the revenue
Well,
recognizable?
it depends on who your customers are.
Is the revenue recognizable on a PO? Anybody? An accountant? Wait, who's the AI guy? Right, okay, right. And
it or
she's
is
an
not?
accountant. So tell me, does your machine say with the PO he can recognize the revenue? So I'm being tough on you. I'm being tough on you, okay? So, but, you know, I'm being tough to make you better, not to beat you down, okay? All right. Okay.
Thanks.
Question. Yes. Quick.
I got stuck on the part where I don't see the benefit to the person with the smartphone who's being advertised to put your app on their phone. And that seems like a big stickling point for me if I were in Bill's shoes, that I'd be like, great, I can see where a lot of your commerce customers would love to have this, but without the consumers playing along, that seems like a really big point you would have to convince.
Yeah,
on
we
quickly.
already did, if I can answer it real quickly.
Yeah.
For most of the part, we're actually attaching ourselves to the loyalty programs that already are on the Beacon. So the Beacon application, it's powered by .hot. So we're enabling like Hilton hotels, loyalty programs, GoPro, for example, they have 100,000 displays. They're neighbors, they're one of our customers, potentially, I should say, that they have 100,000 displays, and that's
in the
where
pipeline.
those beacons are going
Okay.
to.
But that's a great example of, so you've got a two-sided market in the sense that one side is the advertisers and you have a value proposition to them, which is we're going to offer targeted, more engaging advertising so you're not wasting ad dollars and space on people who don't care. But then his point is you also have to have the value proposition on the other side. So it may take you more than 20 seconds because you have the two sides. But what I want you, what I want you to get to is to say the reason that advertisers and brands love our technology is we increase something by some amount, which generates some amount of more revenue, whatever. And the reason why consumers love this app is
Because they
they're
come to
going
the
to
store.
get coupons and promotions and benefits and blah, 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 right?
Yeah, exactly.
So ideally, if you could put those words into real people's mouths rather than you saying them. So GoPro is signing up because they can see how we can increase their advertising impact by 50% and save them whatever. And or, you know, we polled the first 500 customers and they love it because now they're getting whatever.
Right.
So we want to hear that your customers love your solution. So for us to fall in love with you, you've got to get people to fall in love with your solution in the marketplace. That's how it works. And so if you can put those words into real customers' mouths and then repeat them to us, that's credible and it has more bang. It gets our heart beating faster than if you just promise, that you're going to make their lives better.
Thank
That make sense?
Yeah, it makes
Okay,
perfect.
thank you
Thank
so much. Thank you, guys. So I'm sorry if it was a little bit tough. I was trying, consider it tough love, right? So you got to do that to yourselves. So you have got to beat yourselves up by, working with other people who will give you honest feedback about whether or not it's clear what you're doing, whether or not your benefit is clear and compelling, whether or not what you're saying is credible. How can we be more credible? How can we have more impact in those first 20 seconds? So figure out those sentences and keep working them, with your team, with your customers, with your board, with your advisors, with your investors, with your friends. All right? And so you're promising me you're all going to figure out how to get to wow, right? All right, thank you.
Let's hear it for Bill.
Oh, yeah.
I know. Well, first of all, I know I promised our raffle was at 8:40, and some people have left, so your odds of winning are better. So, would you guys like to do? Normally, I have Bill take questions from the audience, but we're a little behind. Would you? Who would like to have Bill do a Q&A?
Are there any burning questions, or was it all just so crystal clear? You have.
Who wants to get straight to the raffle?
Okay.
I'll try to keep it really short, but okay, if you have a product or service that is highly dependent, or really to get the wow, really needs visuals. I often just whip out the phone and play like a really quick video right there and there. I mean, am I really crossing a
Yes,
line?
you whip out a really quick video? Okay.
Yeah, it's 20 seconds, so it's while I'm talking. It's
if that works in the context, that's great, but you're not going to always be able to do that. So you've got to figure out how to get it into words. You just got to. That's your, sometimes you'll be able to use the image, sometimes you'll be able to use the video, but no matter what, you've still got to figure out the best set of words. So I'm not saying don't use the video, but what I am saying is figure out what to do when you cannot use the video, and don't just say, screw it, we'll lose everything that doesn't get to see the video. What?
It's elusive. The answer.
It's tough. I absolutely guarantee that you will be, if you work it, you will be able to paint this picture. You will be able to say, imagine if. So I don't care what the product itself is. So, and I don't want to get into it. But if you can convince me credibly the value you deliver to customers, then I'll give you the benefit of the doubt and wait to see the video later. But if you can't convince me in words that you changed their lives for the better, I'm not going to bother clicking on the video. Okay? Okay. All right.
Bill?
Any other? Yes?
Well, first
you
of
want
all,
me to?
Yeah, we'd like to thank Bill for spending his time with us tonight, and I want to award him with the classic Idea to IPO coffee mug. Let's hear it for Bill.
All right. Thank you. Oh, wow. Great.
You're supposed to say wow.
Good. Wow.
Yeah, okay.
Wow, this is a great coffee mug.
So we're going to do a raffle. Afterwards, Bill is going to hang around the photo booth there. You can get pictures with Bill, and he'll be happy to talk to you one-on-one. So let's get on with the raffle. I'm going to get started. Has everyone who's entered the raffle, who wanted
So you're
to enter,
done
has
with me,
already
right?
entered? Anyway, first prize that we have is a classic Idea to IPO jacket, which all our speakers usually get. You already have one, but you lost it. The winner is Larry Kumar, Water Saver. Okay. From Roger Royce, attorney at law, one of our partners, Royce Law Firm, dead on arrival, how to avoid the legal mistakes that could kill your startup. Hopefully no one here is dead on arrival. The winner is thin-necked Jurgo Soren, President, PhD. Jurgo, come on down. Okay, Circles and Tommaso, they have a prize.
So congrats startups, and thank you, Bill, thank you, Rob, for organizing that. Now imagine how much cooler it is if we all stay in contact and can debrief what we learned tonight, right? That's the reason why I download Circle, right? And again, you guys are startups, we are startups. We love to give feedback, but we also love to get feedback, okay? Circles.io. And we got a Rumble too. This is... Wow, another thing with fonts. I think it's Liquid Labs, right? Frank Zauk, CTO. Oh.
Okay, Wallace from Metis has a prize.
All right, guys, can I get a quick show of hands? How many of you guys are entrepreneurs? You guys work at a startup? Congratulations, you guys are the second most hardest working people in the world. I'm going to give the first to mothers. But yeah, I mean, we, as startups and entrepreneurs, we work long hours, and everyone in my company, we run on coffee. So, brought a little bag, local roaster, Chromatic, and do I pick or you pick? You pick. Alrighty. Promise I won't look. Sana Rizgui.
Okay, Hillary has a prize, and she has a big surprise for us.
A big surprise. You want to pick? Somebody want to pick?
Announce the prize.
Okay, we have a gift card, a cash card here for, it's $25 from the SBDC for participating in the survey. So thank you for your participation. And Shadi Naji, am I saying that right?
Going once, twice, she went home.
She went home.
See what happens.
Does that take you out? Okay.
Don't do that.
Siliconic Home, Tim Connolly. Dead on the floor again. Wow. All right, one more time. Recycle, next revolution in fitness evolution. Nori. You're still doing the survey. Well, there you go.
All right, so on to some good stuff. Unlimited pass to Idea IPO proprietary events for October 2016. So we have a lot of events on our calendar in October. And the winner is... Next Tree Ventures, Romanis Zontovicius. Come on down. Congratulations. See you at the events. Now we've come to the prize everybody's been waiting for. It's $100 cash. It's real. I just got it from the bank this afternoon. So who doesn't like to use cash? Then you're eliminated from eligibility. All right. And the winner is... That's a lot of suspense. Guildwalls.com, Sergey Andrichenko. Come on down. Woo. So don't spend it all in one place. So Bill's going to be hanging out by the photo booth. You can take pictures with Bill, and he'll talk to you one-on-one. He'll listen to your elevator pitches if you didn't make the formal lineup. So thanks for coming. We'll see you next time.